Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I suppose, the first installment of our weekly team builder for the JTDL Draft League. This is Orucs-Oraihc, your coach of your Wodonga Why Nots, and let's get straight into it. So, this week we are going up against the Meltans and Snake King 407. I think it's 407. I always mix up the numbers at the end, but I'm like 90% certain. I double checked before this recording. It is 407. So, uh, let's see what that team looks like. I've got a box prepared with what I think is viable sets. So let's talk about it. Scyther is the S tier pick from Snake King. This is honestly probably the most threatening Pokemon in the entire S tier that's not named Sneasel. It has absolutely phenomenal stats all around. If we look at its base stats, that is just some incredible stuff right there. It's enough. In fact, when it evolves, its base stat total doesn't change. It just gets redistributed more to attack, less in speed, etc. So it's very powerful. I think it's base 510 total, which is insane. It's super fast at base 105, and it has a really incredibly high attack stat as well. As you see, it hits a max speed stat of 172 here. Gets a lot of really it gets a couple of really strong moves, but the thing about Scyther is it doesn't get much good coverage. Probably its best good coverage move is Assurance. It gets Brick Break as well, but other than that, it doesn't really get much of anything. Steel Wing, I suppose. So there's not too much that I'm too worried about in terms of what it can do coverage-wise. Feint is probably its best tech move that can be run, but even that is more situational than anything, and you don't want to be running Feint on your Scyther because that's one less spot for a Protect or an attacking move. I think a Yachi Berry is uh, pretty likely for Scyther this week because they know about my Sneasel naturally, and their Scyther is weak to Ice type. But it can also be running a Life Orb. It could be a Choice Scarf. That would be honestly kind of insane, and I really don't want to see that because it might mess up my team. Uh, but yeah, moving on. Yeah, it just gets really strong stabs, and uh, surprisingly, Bug type is a type that my team is somehow weak against. So I'm very glad that this is the only good Bug type in all of Little Cup, and possibly the only good Bug type in all of VGC in general. But that's a more arguable one. There's Durant, and etc. Anyways, moving on. Litten. Litten is another very strong pick. Gets Intimidate. It's relatively bulky. You can see, even though it's only 45, 40, 40 in its stats, its Intimidate helps with its physical bulk, and then you can invest a lot in special defense. You can even run something like an Assault Vest, because I know Assault Vest Incineroar is really high in usage in normal VGC. Strong attack, strong special attack. It can be either one, either or. Uh, with special attacks, you often see it running Overheat just because it's so powerful. And I'm talking specifically about Litten in Little Cup and in drafts because it is sometimes a threat. Its max speed is only 134, but that's still faster than pretty much everything on my team. This entire draft is a very fast one. So uh, it gets Fake Out, Will-O-Wisp, Parting Shot, lots of good moves. But again, it doesn't get too much coverage that you're expecting to see. can be running really offensive with like Crunch, and it gets Outrage apparently. Uh, but you know, uh, I don't expect to see an offensive Litten this week, but you never know. And I have ways around that. Moving on, we have Shellos. Uh, Shellos, if it comes, it's probably going to be the Eviolite holder. I don't think it's going to come because it's not particularly good against my team this week, but you never know. It can run something like Protect Recover, Scald Ice Beam. It's not particularly strong, but it's not weak either, and it's got pretty decent bulk at 76, 48, 62. If you run a lot of HP or defense, it gets pretty bulky. And then even like with this max special attack set that I have drawn up here, uh, it can hit decently hard with base 57 special attack. Of course, I don't think it's going to be that useful this week because my only water type is Sobble, so I don't entirely expect my opponent to bring it, but we'll see. It might just happen. Next up, we have Trico. Trico, I am kind of worried about because it can be something like Focus Sash, Unburden, Endeavor, and that would be the big thing for me that I would be worried about. This thing gets no special coverage moves, so even though its special attack is higher than its base attack, I'm expecting a physical set this week because it can't hit me with its stab for any super effective outside of Sobble. And the only coverage move it gets, I think, is Dragon Pulse, if it even gets that at this level or at this stage. Gets Dragon Breath, so that's its only special coverage. Maybe Swift. Did I miss Swift? It might get Swift. Or Round. Yeah. Round, Snore, Swift. But nothing really great on its special side, so I'm expecting a physical set to deal with things. Double Kick and Drain Punch moves I could expect to see. It could even just be running like max HP, max speed, Endeavor, Focus Sash, Unburden. It can be a threat, and it's something that I have to keep in mind. Moving on again, Bagon, really powerful. Base 50 speed is actually faster than a lot of my team. It's got really a great attack stat at base 75. Its special bulk is particularly lacking, but it could run an Assault Vest for that. I'm expecting something more like a Sheer Force Life Orb set, just to be as fast and as strong as possible. It gets a bunch of different secondary effect moves: Crunch, Fire Fang, Shadow Claw. It could run a stab move like Dragon Claw, but that doesn't even have a secondary effect boosted by Sheer Force. It doesn't have any Dragon type move of the type, if I recall correctly. It could also run Outrage, but Outrage isn't particularly great against a team that has a Fairy type on it, like mine. So I'm not entirely expecting that. But it can also run a Dragon Dance set, and that could be really worrisome because if you give this thing a speed boost, it hits about the same speed that Scyther was. It's going to be slightly less, more like 167, I want to say, or 168. 168. But still something that's very strong. Up next, we have Mienfoo. Mienfoo, I think it's another very fast Mon. At base 65, it's outspeeding a lot of things in LC, and it's got base 85 attack, which again, is just a very hyper offensive Mon. It's a big threat to Sneasel in particular because Sneasel is 4 times weak to fighting. So if this thing is running something like a Choice Scarf and outspeeding me, then I am in some trouble. That being said, a lot of things that could happen to combat that. So next we have Bunnelby. Bunnelby, I think, is the most likely holder of the Choice Scarf because it just gets slightly faster than Scyther when you give it one. If you look at its stats, it's base 57 speed, which hits 119 stat. With a choice scarf, that's 178. Again, Scyther's max speed was 172. And this thing gets huge power, so this attack stat of 88 is actually 176. So a choice scarf huge power set, I think, could do some serious damage, and I'm expecting this to be the choice scarf mon, if any, on my opponent's team today. And this was what I think Shellos is probably being dropped for. Mime Jr. also can come. Gets fake out, gets trick room even, and dual screens. So lots of different things to be done about that. Honestly, it can run a lot of different sets, but it doesn't have any really strong attacking sets. So the main thing to worry about with it is just making sure that you taunt it, or otherwise limit its ability to use its support moves to their fullest capacity. As long as I keep it from doing too much, then we're good to go. Squabbit, this is one that I am particularly worried about because Squabbit is actually a real threat against my team. If my opponent decides to go with a Trick Room Mime Jr., for example, and gets it up and gets this thing in Trick Room, then I'm in some serious danger. As you see, I've given it this Belly Drum Last Resort set. That could be... it's absolutely something that I have to expect. So if Mime Jr. is, for example, Ally Switch with Trick Room, then like this thing gets in Trick Room, Ally Switch, Belly Drum, and then just go for super powerful last resorts. It can also just run no speed investment and max or nearly max HP. There's just a lot of different ways this can be played. The one mistake that my opponent might make, and like I hope they do, because the reason this thing runs Belly Drum is because Cheek Pouch Citrus Berry is a good thing. The big mistake that they might make is making this thing max HP. You don't want to run max HP on a Belly Drum Pokemon because when it gets down to half health, it won't proc its Citrus Berry because it's not actually going down to half health. It's going down to one above half health, or one half above half health. So if my opponent is running it with and it doesn't proc a Citrus Berry after it Belly Drums, then I will know that it is actually a max HP set instead of a 244. Cleffa? Cleffa is actually not that much of a threat. The one thing it does get on its side is Friend Guard, but other than that, it doesn't get great offensive moves, so it's probably going to be running 4 support moves. It doesn't even get Follow Me, so I don't even remember if it gets Ally Switch. It probably does, because everything gets Ally Switch, but who knows? It doesn't even get Ally Switch, so there's no redirection from Cleffa. But the thing about Cleffa is that it does get access to a lot of things that can tilt the game in my opponent's favor. I want to make sure it can't do that. I want to make sure that this thing can't randomly sing and 55% of the time works every time. Put my opponent to sleep. Or put my Pokemon to sleep. My Dynamax Mon especially would be devastating. It's probably going to run something like max defense, max HP because its defense stat is atrocious. And because of that, it's probably not going to be an offensive threat at all. If Cleffa is on the field, I probably don't have to worry about it after it's been taunted. Or otherwise, if it's not doing anything, because it's not likely to be doing anything. It probably is going to be running Helping Hand. Is the other thing. Might be over Sing. It might not even be running screens. Who knows? It has options. They're not the greatest, but it can still put in its work. And finally, Meltan. Meltan is something I was originally not worried about, but then I played a practice match against someone, and they had a Meltan, and it actually put in a surprising amount of work. Uh, the thing is, it doesn't get any moves. It has like a total of 10 or 11 attacking moves, and most of those are coverage overlaps. It doesn't get any coverage outside of uh, normal electric and steel. Uh, but it does actually have not bad attacks for that. So, like Flash Cannon is a great attack, Thunderbolt is a great attack. It just doesn't get any coverage. You could see something like leftovers with Acid Armor Protect. I think it gets Protect. Yeah, Acid Armor or Iron Defense with Protect. Similarly, you could see a Rest set with Sleep Talk, Iron Defense. Uh, I don't know. It apparently gets Toxic. I don't know how, but yeah, that's all sort of stuff that I could see from Meltan, and I wouldn't be entirely surprised by. But with my opponent's team out of the way, it's time to talk about what I'm bringing to try to counter that and how I'm trying to counter it specifically. So let's get straight to it. And here's the sets. I'm just going to scroll through this quickly so you can see everything, and then I will be right back to talk about it in game. Okay, so here we are. It is time to take a look at the team. This is the wrong box. Here we are. Okay, so today I'm gonna just kind of go over what I've been doing first and foremost. So let's start. Everything has all of its IVs and EVs already, and its moves that it needs. And so we're just gonna get right to it. Schneebel, Sneasel. I haven't nicknamed any of these yet, but that's the next step. This is gonna be Kitty with a smiley face. All of my Sneasels for the entire season are going to be wild Sneasels that I just catch that have marks. And then I'm just going to train those up with bottle caps and with ability capsules or whatever. And so this week we've got Schneetanzer Schneebel, or Sneasel the Snow Frolicker. And that you can see right here. We're running Never Melt Ice on Sneasel this week. It's only running 2 attacks plus Fake Out, and it's actually not running anything other than Ice type coverage because Ice type coverage does so much against the opposing team. So Fake Out, Triple Axle, Ice Shard, Swords Dance. If Sneasel gets a free turn of setup, however it manages to get it, it's going to just destroy anything it gets its little claws on. This one's level 100, so these stats aren't what we're going to actually see in the game, but it is what the speed stat that is actually going to hit at level 50 is exactly 180 speed stat, or 179 rather. And the reason for 179 speed stat is because if this thing is 179 speed, then it outspeeds that Scarf huge power Bunnelby. And the reason that's important for me is because that, and the reason I'm expecting a Scarf on Bunnelby is because the thing is, in a draft league, you're prepped for the speeds that are like your opponent's highest speed mon. If you have a really high speed mon, like I have Sneasel here at base 115 speed, my opponent's expecting me to prep my Sneasel and to prep all of my mons after setup because I have Tailwind, expecting it to just barely outspeed a max speed Cider, for example. So, like, I would be running 173 speed stat. Instead, I'm running 179 because if they decide, you know what, I expect you to want to be like 173 to 176 for all of your fastest stuff after setup, I'm gonna just bring in my Choice Scarf Bunnelby and outspeed everything and take knockouts. If that happens, Sneasel and everything else is still going to be faster than that, and I've made sure of that for this week. I've also got Ice Shard for priority in case things get set up or higher speeds in whatever ways they do. So we've got that going. And we are running Jolly Nature with max attack. The rest of our investment after speed, we've got 28 defense and then 4 HP in special defense EVs. That defense is just to help against all of the physical threats that my opponent is bringing, because most of the Pokemon on my opponent's team are either physical attackers or support mons. And there's very few special attackers. I think only 1 or 2. And there's some things like Litten again that can run both ways, but I think physical defense is more likely to be important this week. After that, we've got our Burr, Darkiri. This is Fletchling. We're running the Focus Sash this week, and probably most weeks that we bring Fletchling, it's going to be Focus Sash because it has pretty low HP and defenses. But this is almost max speed. It's 1 point off max speed because it needs to outspeed their max speed base 60 mon. This is base 62. I want to just be able to outspeed that for safety to hit first, etc. This week, our moves, we're running Protect, Tailwind, Taunt, Dual Wing Beat. We're running max attack Jolly Nature. So neutral, but 252 investment. It hits a decent stat at 102. This is literally a 25% decrease, less than, or a 24% decrease even from Talonflame's max attack stat. So people who are trying to run Talonflame as your offensive Pokemon, or as any type of an offensive Pokemon, use Fletchling instead. Like, what are you doing? Protect is because of Litten's Fake Out. I don't want to be taking that damage because then my Tailwind isn't going first always. Taunt is really good, again, for the Cleffa and the Prime Junior, just to prevent them from doing what they can to set up. And again, Tailwind is just really strong because of instant speed changes. You can just immediately, your team is moving twice as fast for the rest of the essentially what amounts to the rest of the game. It's not all, it's 4 turns, but it's enough. And we've given all of our non-wild Pokemon, because all of these Pokemon I bred, all of them have the effort ribbon this week. So we are going to see Fletchling the once well trained, and everything the once well trained. After that, next we have Qfant. Qfant is actually running. Qfant is running the Life Orb this week because its Sheer Force ability negates Life Orb damage from moves whose effects are cancelled. That's a very important thing for Qfant to just, because with the Life Orb and with Sheer Force, it is a 1.7 times power boost essentially to everything else, everything it's doing that has a secondary effect, and still a 1.3 times power boost to the non-secondary effect moves. We're hitting, as you see, 91 speed stat here. This is, again, just because in Tailwind, when you double that, that's 182, which is faster than 178. And it's faster than 180 even, because I think I want to have other Pokemon on my team that are hitting that 180 number. If you look at this thing, it's actually adamant, because I didn't need a plus speed nature. I wanted to just max the attack. And this thing hits some incredible attack numbers. At 145, if we look at Sneasel, and if it were level 50, it's only 2 points of attack less than Sneasel has. At base 80, at a positive nature, it gets really high attack. Its defenses and HP aren't bad, naturally. This week we're running Protect, Iron Head, Power Whip, and Rock Slide. Power Whip is actually really funny because Grass hits almost nothing on my opponent's team for super effective. I don't think it hits anything at all on my opponent's team for super effective, and most things it hits almost everything worse than Play Rough does. But there's a really funny reason for that. Iron Head naturally is super great. Rock Slide is incredible spread damage. Doesn't get the flinch because of Sheer Force, but it's super strong. Even as a spread move, it's doing something like 50% to Scyther when it's maxed. And again, naturally, same effort ribbon as everything else. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that it's in a Safari Ball because it's an elephant, you know? Next, Mimeon. This is our little Sobble. Sobble is probably going to be instrumental most weeks. I think it's really great. This week we're running a really funky set. As you look at our item, that's the Adrenaline Orb, which means its speed is going to get raised by 1 stage if it gets intimidated. And the reason that I'm running this item over a Choice Scarf, which is what I'd normally want to run if I wanted to just be 1 stage faster, this allows me to switch up my moves, and it doesn't. And I don't really feel like I need to be faster unless I've been because 90% of the time I'm expecting Litten to be in the lead in some way. So I think that just having that Adrenaline Orb boost makes Sobble a real contender. And it means I can run something like a Modest Nature when otherwise I would want to run Max Speed Timid to Speed Tie with Litten. I don't need to worry about speed ties with Litten because if Litten comes in, I'm going to be faster. We're not running Sniper this week. This is just a Torrent Sobble. Again, you look at the speed stat, 121, at +1 that hits 181. So again, faster than that Choice Scarf Funnel Beat. This week we're running Protect, Soak, Water Pledge, and Mudshot. So 2 attacks. Protect is always a great move. I don't think I need to explain why Protect is a good move in VGC. Soak, I feel like is always great tech to have on Sobble or Inteleon. I've been running with a lot of Inteleon teams over the past week and a half or so of testing out new teams in general, and I really like Soak Inteleon, and Sobble is going to do much of the same stuff as it does there. When you use Soak on the opponent, it turns them into a water type, negates their previous typing entirely, and so if I were to say Soak their Scyther, then their Scyther is a water type. And now we see the reason why I have Power Whip on Q-Fan. It's because it's going to be hitting everything for super effective after those things are soaked. So that's our little fun thing. For that, Mud Shot, great for getting speed control. I can also max this Sobble if it's in speed control, or if it's not in speed control, it's still decent. Its defense is not great, but when it's Dynamax and doubles its HP, it can take a few hits, and it can take a lot of one-hit KOs because of its really great special attack stat, 134. And again, Effort Ribbon. Next, we have Bizazam, our little Bulbasaur. It's currently holding the Eviolite. I decided to put an Eviolite on because I'm going to be running Eviolite most weeks, I think. It's just so good in a little format, but you can only have one of them. So with Eviolite on Bulbasaur, I can really get a lot of extra bulk on it. And Bulbasaur is a Pokemon that can be really bulky, and with an Eviolite, it just gains that kind of natural bulk that it wouldn't otherwise have. Because it's got decent bulk stats, but if I could stop pressing the B button. Its bulk is decent, it's stat-wise, but with an Eviolite, it doesn't even need something like defense investment. So I'm running some HP investment this week, enough speed to hit 90 because in the Sun or in Tailwind that hits 180 stat. We already know why that's important. Yeah. And then we have Protect, Grass Pledge, Sunny Day, Growth. So only one attack on Bulbasaur. I was kind of torn between one attack Bulbasaur and like 2 or 3 attacks, because naturally we're going to have Protect, Protect's a great move. The thing is, I wanted to have Sunny Day and I didn't want to put it on Sneasel, so this was really my best secondary option for a Sunny Day Pokemon. And once I had Sunny Day, I decided, you know what? If I get Sunny Day off, and my opponent can't exert offensive pressure on Bulbasaur, I can just go for a Growth and immediately become a super threat. And by that time, even if the offensive presence is on the field after a Growth in Sun, I'm faster than everything and taking a lot of KOs, especially if I've managed to get that Intimidate off on my Sobble, because the thing is, Sobble at I could have had Sobble hit 120 stat, but 121 stat is specifically so after an Intimidate, it hits 181 stat, 181 greater than 180, which is what we will have Bulbasaur in the Sun, and and that means I can Soak and then go for a Grass type. Max Overgrowth or even just a Grass Pledge raw. Again, Effort Ribbon. This is actually the last one I put the Effort Ribbon on, because originally I didn't have it fully trained. I only had 508 EVs, so I just decided, you know what, let's go out and put those last 2 EVs on this Pokemon. Finally, we have Parfait, our little Spritzy. It's running Light Clay this week, Spritzy is a Pokemon that I think is severely underrated. I've talked about Aromatisse, probably not on this channel, but I've talked about it. I think it's really underrated as a support mon, and I think Spritzy is going to be great as a support mon in Little Cup. So let's talk about it. Look at these defensive stats. Like, my goodness. Like, naturally, I'm investing almost fully in the bulk of this thing. But still, hitting 183, 103, 103. And I decided I would just hit even defenses with this just because that's what I ended up deciding on. I probably should have put more thought into it, but I honestly didn't care too much to. You'll also notice it's actually not minimum speed. I've actually put some speed investment into my Spritzy, and the reason for that is I think my opponent could reasonably go for a no speed investment, but not min speed squatted. And if my opponent does that and sees Spritzy and thinks this thing is going to be Trick Room, I'm going to outspeed this thing because it's going to be min speed, that's where they're going to be wrong, and then I can set up a Reflect before anything can happen, or even just go for an attack. So this week, my moves is going to be 1 attack, 3 support. I'm not running Protect, but I am running Moonblast, Helping Hand, and Dual Screens, Light Screen, Reflect. As a secondary note, I never realized this before, but now that I do, I can't stop thinking about it. Why do Light Screen and Reflect have different max PPs? Explain. Anyways, yeah, Moonblast is just to, like, do general damage. It was originally going to be Dazzling Gleam, but then I realized I really didn't have any redirection to worry about, and I would rather have the higher power immediately from Moonblast into one target than spread the damage. And that might come back to bite me. I might think back on this match and be like, oh, I wish I had Dazzling Gleam at that moment, but it's a decision I've lived with, and I think I'm much more likely to need Moonblast than Dazzling Gleam for the extra damage. And again, this is just the effort ribbon. So yeah, thank you for watching my kind of team builder video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Naturally, I will be uploading the actual battle video as soon as the battle is done, and by the time this video goes up, that battle will already have happened, because I'm not going to put out all my team building strategies before the match, you know? But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you guys in the battle video. Until then, bye!